Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has reclassified marijuana. We'll tell you what this actually means for citizens, especially those who were convicted of marijuana charges. Also on today's show, a follow-up to the case of the black man in Missouri who was found shot in the head in the attic of a white supremacist. We'll tell you the results of an FBI investigation. Also, the Brennan Center for Justice studied nearly 1 billion voter files and found that the gap between white and black voter turnout is increasing. Yeah, this is an alarming story. I keep telling y'all about our power. Well, this is an issue that we must address. Also, Byron Allen's The Griot lays off all of its video and podcast staff, and nearly all of their shows have also been canceled. I'll give you those details. Plus, a recap of the 17th annual George Lopez Celebrity Golf Classic in Los Angeles. It is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, since 1971, marijuana has been classified as a Schedule I drug, defined as a drug with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Well, that is now changed. The DEA is expected to reclassify marijuana from the most strict Schedule I to the less stringent Schedule III. This is the first time the U.S. government is acknowledging its potential medical benefits. Dr. Shonda Macy is the founder of the National Holistic Healing Center, joins us from Washington, D.C. Shonda, glad to have you here. So explain to people why this is a huge decision.
For our community. The first thing, the impact that it has is that it opens up the access for patients. Patients feel more comfortable using cannabis as medicine because now the government is saying it's actually medicinal benefits in using it. So we're so excited that the government is just finally accepting and sharing the news that we've known for decades, and that we've been fighting for our rights for legalization to just be able to have access to health care. So that's the underlying issue that we're dealing with today. But there's also implications on what it looks like for small business owners that are of brown and black communities, social equity, and what it looks like for us in the taxation realm. So for every dollar that we generate in cannabis, 70 cents of that goes to the federal government on taxes. So now with the rescheduling of cannabis, this actually allows us to normalize our taxation and get taxed like every other business in the United States. So we can actually now start to generate a profit.
But again, well, they're focusing on the health benefits. And so what we have seen is a lot of focus on this over the last several years. We have seen the NFL, the NBA also change their position when it comes to the health benefits as well. And so, you know, this is a dramatic move by the DEA, and one that people have been demanding for a very long time.
Definitely. And not only that, Roland, what's interesting about this rescheduling is that it opens up for more access to research. So now you'll start to see more pharmaceutical companies come in, do more research, but it also allows pharmaceutical companies to come in, cultivate, manufacture, sell, and distribute cannabis along with us small businesses. So this is kind of like a tricky place, but for us, in terms of our community, what is so powerful about rescheduling is that Black and Brown communities that were targeted, that have been incarcerated for cannabis, we'll see less and less of those incarcerations. And so we have a long way to go, but we'll take our victory today because we know that incremental change is really going to help us on the long run. But we just have to get situated, and making this progress today will definitely impact our community in the future.
I want to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice with the EPA, Joseph out of D.C., Randy Bryant, DEI disruptor, also out of D.C., Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of L.A. Glad to have all three of you here. Joe, I'll start with you. Your question for Doc regarding this decision.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm glad to hear this news. This is good news. So I wonder, thinking about this, you've been on this crusade for quite some time. And when I say that, I mean that there's been a lot of work and effort, blood, sweat, and tears toward getting the government to move along to where we actually are, the state of marijuana, the medicinal values, et cetera. What would you say, having accomplished this, would be your next frontier? What are some other barriers related to this issue that you would like to see come down?
Well, we know that the cannabis laws have been intertwined in systemic racism since the inception. And in 1971, as Roland pointed out, is that with the Substance Control Act, it classified it as heroin. So what we need to do is systematically unwind all of the racial barriers that we've seen that have been implemented through policy, through laws, and then really find a good way for our community to be able to expunge their previous convictions and institute more voting rights. And I think like that is the most fundamental thing we can do for our community, because we know that if we have the right to vote, we can say who's in power.
Thank you.
Mustafa.
Yeah, well, thank you for being with us. You know, we know that, as mentioned earlier, there are a number of different health benefits. So benefits from cancer, lowering blood pressure, anxiety, a number of different things that are associated with cannabis. Do you feel that this will also open the door, because you mentioned earlier about research, and often people are a bit hesitant when there's a controlled substance that's a part of their research. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I was a couple of decades ago, when I was a student at Howard University studying prostate cancer in men, you know, one of the major barriers I had was the simple fact that I couldn't study it. And so for me, especially with cancers like prostate that disproportionately impacts our community, it's important for me to find a way that men, Black men, can have a sustainable life and be able to have access to true health care. So now we can do this with the rescheduling. Literally, this rescheduling puts cannabis in the same category as Tylenol. And so with that, we can actually start to look at those fundamental healthcare issues that can start to change lives. And when I say change lives, but throughout all diseases, all disease states, we can really start to introspect on what impacts that cannabis can have on sustaining the human life.
Randy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that this happened. I know it was a long time coming, and I'm certainly very happy that they are going to change the scheduling, but I can't help but to just wonder about equity. You know, many of our brothers and sisters have been locked up and remain locked up because of just having small amounts of marijuana. And I also worry about, you know, the wealth gap they talk about all the time. how, the federal government, of course, is going to make quite a bit of money, which is why I believe there's been a big push to make it, to change the laws. But how will we ensure that we, Black people, will have an opportunity to also benefit from this new change?
Well, I'm going to touch on your last point first, which is that throughout the nation is the simple fact that social equity licenses have been issued and allowable for people of color. And that will give us the access to be able to participate in this billion-dollar industry. But I want to also erase the misconception of the billion-dollar industry. Like I said before, where we are today, every dollar that we generate in the cannabis industry, 70 cents actually goes to taxation. So we're not really making money. And if you look at what that looks like in terms of cannabis businesses today, we owe the federal government over $3 billion collectively. And so now, with the rescheduling, is only the beginning of ability to generate profit. So those social equity licenses that have been issued now can go to those that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Let me give you a great case in point. Washington, D.C. have encouraged legacy, what we call legacy or illicit market, to come up into the light, to participate in a regulated market so that they can have access to freely participate in an industry that will generate wealth that they created. And so with that, we see New York, we see all the different states coming on with this equity path. Now, is it just that easy? No. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles. There's a lot of issues surrounding social equity and funding for people who want to actually start their business. But there is the first step, which is that we're getting a license. And then from there, we have to work on the incremental change. And that incremental change, just being able to have the potential to generate some type of generational wealth, is just the beginning of trying to restore the justice that has been done on our community. So, no, is it where we want to be today? Is it headed in the right direction? Yes, it is. And now to flip-flop on what you said previously, let's talk about the state of expungement right now. I remember when I went to the White House 2 years ago, and we spoke to the special advisor to the president and talked about how pardons should be issued. And less than 6 months later, the pardons were issued for simple marijuana possession. That was such a huge victory for us. But also the message was to tell all the governors to issue pardons in all the states to those that actually had marijuana possession charges. That didn't happen because a lot of governors didn't have the power to institute such change. But we see right now in Congress, there's legislation like the HOPE Act that says that expungement for low-level possessions of medical cannabis or cannabis, period, should be expunged automatically. That expungement will start to right the wrongs on our community and give us an opportunity not only to start out again, but have access to an industry that can generate generational wealth.
Thank you for that.
All right, then. Dr. Shonda, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. And we'll see what's next. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back more on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, including this strange story we're covering out of Missouri. This young black man shot in the head, found in the attic of white supremacists. Now the FBI has released their report on this. Also, Byron Allen's The Griot. The axe drops. We'll tell you who got cut, what got cut. All that coming up next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. A lot of of y'all have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. And look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, the Shibori, because it's sort of like a flower and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh, man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSmartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori pocket square or the custom-made pocket square. Again, RolandSmartin.com/pocket squares. Go there now.
This is Reggie Rock Byfield. You're watching
Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
May 19th, President Joe Biden is supposed to address the graduates of Morehouse College. Well, you've got some students as well as faculty not happy with that decision. This is a story from NBC here. It's on everybody's mind. Morehouse faculty and students raise concerns about Biden's graduation speech. Folks are not too particularly happy, obviously, with President Biden when it comes to what's happening in Israel and Gaza. The president of the university, as well as the provost, they've made it clear they are not going to rescind the invitation. Morehouse provost said, from our perspective, really having a sitting president come to Morehouse offers an incredible opportunity. This is something that is in line with Morehouse's mission and also with this objective of being a place that allows for engagement of social justice issues and moral concerns. Now, again, you have students as well as faculty both releasing letters saying that Morehouse should rescind that invitation. Let's go to my panel. Mustafa, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on the criticism on the students and others who are saying that Biden should not speak and should Morehouse continue with this invitation?
Well, of course, it's up to Morehouse to make that decision, but with the history of Morehouse, with Dr. King and so many other great leaders who have went there and who have stood for social justice and stood for human rights, and we understand the sets of dynamics that are currently going on in the Middle East that are not in alignment with those beliefs that are infused into both the young men at Morehouse and Clark, sisters at Spelman and at Morris Brown. So we understand why young people are pushing back. We tell them to stand up and fight against injustice. So, having the president come and some of the actions that he has done, of course, are going to create a situation where there's some ire from many of the students who are there. So I understand Morehouse's position. They have the President of the United States coming. You know, it's great for fundraising.
Moms and grandmas here, aunts.
It's great to
Sunday best.
lift everything up. So, but you should listen to the voices of your students. They are the lifeblood of your institution, and be able to address whatever concerns they may have.
Understand that particular point there, but here's the deal here, Joe. President Barack Obama, he spoke at Morehouse in May 2013. If you talk to others, they'll talk about his drone attacks, impact on civilians, taking out Gaddafi in Libya. And so, do you sense here, Joe, there's a double standard between Obama and Biden?
Well, you know, there's an argument there. Interestingly, the provost at Morehouse, Brother Kendrick Brown, actually was here at the University of Redlands, my undergrad alma mater, recently, right before getting to Morehouse. So I can imagine what he's wrestling with. And so, you know, interestingly, talking to my daughter and kids her age, they were hard on Obama, even though Obama and the opportunities that he helped and the presentation of just the possibilities, let alone what he actually accomplished, created and paved the way for them. People that age, professors, people in an intellectual environment where you're supposed to be stimulated, where you're supposed to speak up and speak out, et cetera, are going to have something to say about this. And so I think that assuming Biden gets the chance to speak there, I think he should directly address what's actually happening. Maybe this is an opportunity to actually build a bridge that right now is not built. I think that he's suffering from this politically. Whether he ought to or not, I think he absolutely is. I think he needs to reconnect with this young demographic that's going to be vital for him to win. And I do think that given what we were able to accomplish over the years, the Civil Rights Act, 64, 65, the Voting Rights Act, the things that happened with who, by most accounts, was a racist president. I don't think that you keep dialogue from happening. And if you consider that part of the dialogue, I think you allow him to be there because we do want to be different than other places. However, we can still hold them accountable. We can still respectfully allow young people to speak out forcefully, but respectfully and with measure and with balance. It can be something that can be built upon. I don't say stop talking, but I say let's hear what he has to say and then what he does related to this very real situation that has the potential to hurt him as it's hurting the people that folks are talking about and speaking on behalf of.
Randy, last year, President Biden actually spoke at the Howard University graduation, and with him speaking there, give me 1 second. I want to pull this up. Like I say, he spoke there last year, and he, got some pushback from some folks. And you had some students who were not happy with him speaking. There were several who stood up and actually protested, turned their back on him as he was speaking. And so that was, of course, quite interesting while that took place. And it wasn't a major demonstration, but you probably, if I remember, because my niece graduated, she was in the class. You probably had about 10, maybe 15 students who stood up. It might have been more, so it's not like he doesn't quite remember that. Randy?
Yes, I thought you were going to say something else. I'm sorry, Roland. I really actually am impressed with the students and that they are being citizens, that they are participating in this democracy and they're keeping the conversation going. Isn't that why we send our young people to schools? And I also respect that Biden wants to come and that the university wants them to come because that's what a university is supposed to be. So my take is that he does indeed come, but like Joe said, and continues the conversation, but the students can absolutely let it be known respectfully what their issues are. And I respect them for being bold enough and involved enough to care about what's happening and to speak out on it. So I think this can be a win-win situation, but I would allow the president to come. And the president is always going to be controversial, right? I mean, it would be unlikely that someone who has so much power and touches so much of what we do day to day would not have some controversy. But I am so incredibly proud of those students at Morehouse that they're that involved in being good citizens of this country. They have the right to come.
All right, folks. Hold tight 1 second. Hold tight 1 second. We come back. Let's talk about what's happening at Columbia and other college campuses across the country. Some students have taken over a building on the Columbia campus. NYPD is on the scene, and they may be moving in to remove them. And so we're monitoring that. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support us in what we do, folks. Your support is critical for us to do the work that we do. I'm going to tell you a little bit later some changes with the griot. Look, we're the only folks out here, folks, doing the daily digital show targeting African Americans. That's it. There's nothing on BET. There's nothing on TV One. You do not have a daily show on Revolt. You don't have anything on Aspire. You don't have anything on Afro. All of these black linear networks, nothing. Nothing. So you have a lot of weekly podcasts, but we're the only daily show talking about the issues that matter to you every single day. So your support is critical. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. When you contribute to the show, you're making all of this possible, not just this show, but also the other shows on the Black Star Network. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Don't forget to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. And we do not have many copies left. I told you 500 or so. Once they're all gone, or the first, they are gone. And so if you want to get your autographed copy of the first, President Barack Obama's Road to the White House, as originally reported by Roland S. Martin, $10 plus $5.99 shipping and handling. Again, I would personally autograph those. You can order at RolandSMartin.com/the first. All the proceeds going right back into the show. So when you buy the book, you're supporting the show as well. All right, folks, back in a moment.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the wealth gap has literally not changed in over 50 years, according to the Federal Reserve. On the next Get Wealthy, I'm excited to chat with Jim Castleberry, CEO of Known Holdings. They have created a platform, an ecosystem to bring resources to Blacks and people of color so they can scale their business.
Even though we've had several examples of African Americans and other people of color being able to be successful, we still aren't seeing the mass level of us being lifted up.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on A Balanced Life, we're talking everything from prayer to exercise to positive affirmations and everything that's needed to keep you strong and along your way. That's on a Next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, on Black Star Network.
next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We welcome a towering intellect, activist, master theorist, prolific author, and unstoppable firebrand for change. The one and only Dr. Errol Henderson joins us to talk about his new book, The Revolution Will Not Be Theorized, Cultural Revolution in the Black Power Era.
And this is what's going on in so much of academia and in some movement circles is an anti-Black nationalism.
It's an hour of power that you don't want to miss. That's right here on The Black Table on the Black Star Network.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, the protests continue at Columbia University as some students there actually take over a university building there called Hamilton Hall. And so you continue to see as the students are fighting for the university to divest. That was one of the issues right there. And you also, of course, have these students who have been protesting. Now, earlier there was a news conference where student leaders were addressing the media, and they were talking about the issue of food and things along those lines that were needed. Here is some of that news conference.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately, in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building. Now would you please bring us food and water?
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food?
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it violently.
But they haven't stopped it yet.
I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
And the Grubhub. Why should the university be obligated to?
Now, you have seen again, you've seen the protest continue there. The battle continues. In fact, this is interesting. You had other folks who actually started bringing food, passing it through the gates to pass on to the protesters there. This has been contentious, not just there at Columbia, but at other universities as well. You had USC canceling their graduation. You've seen protests on numerous campuses as well. This here is another video here of the students taking over in Hamilton Hall. This is one of the videos there. It's on social media showing them there dropping signs there, and they're going back and forth with the administration on that. Now, NYPD Blue is there as well. So you have them there. First of all, and again, decisions are being made as to whether they are going to actually go back onto the campus. That has been part of the issue all across the country with this unrest, if you will, of law enforcement in terms of their actions. Senator Chuck Schumer, senator from New York, addressed the issue on the floor of the United States Senate about what's happening in Columbia.
Majority Leader. Mr. President, I'd like to begin today by saying a few things about the protests at Columbia University. Smashing windows with hammers and taking over university buildings is not free speech. It is lawlessness. And those who did it should promptly face the consequences that are not merely a slap on the wrist. Free speech, discussion, and even strong disagreement are fundamental American values. and campuses should be places where those values are cherished. Campuses cannot be places of learning and argument and discussion when protests veer into criminality. And those who commit such acts are doing nothing to convince others that their cause is just. It is also unacceptable when Jewish...
Now, that was Senator Chuck Schumer there. Let's go to our panel here. You know, this has been quite contentious. And one of the things, Joe, that has been really interesting is watching all of these people suggest that because these students and others in other campuses, and I was having this conversation with a guy on a plane today, flying back from Los Angeles, where there's this notion that because they are protesting, they're expressing anti-Semitism. And this has been sort of bandied about back and forth. And you have a lot of folks who are saying, wait a minute, how can you call someone an anti-Semite because they are protesting and calling for a ceasefire or calling for the university to divest? And I've seen that phrase thrown around a whole lot. And I'm just trying to understand how can you be against the killing of Palestinians, but then you're calling people anti-Semites? Your thoughts, your assessment on what you're saying.
The hotter the situation is, the less likely you are to have it. People feel safe, for lack of a better term, with absolutes and extremes. And so it's very easy. It doesn't take any work. It doesn't take any effort. It doesn't take any discernment. It doesn't take any research to just say there should be no anti-Semitism. Nobody disagrees with that. So, in fact, I agree with the notion, root it out where you find it. But here you have a situation, even Michael Moore talked about this the other day. You have a situation where you've got a lot of kids that are anti-war. They're not necessarily anti-Semites. And interestingly, this is a lot of the same stuff that was said with protesting about divestment related to South Africa, Vietnam War protests. I mean, you can go on and on about how we've been here so many times, but somebody has to do the work to separate the wheat from the chaff. And we should have space to protest, not to be anti-Semitic, not to make people less safe, not to commit vandalism. All that's true. You can say the same thing about what's been going on and said about Black Lives Matter, and it's amazing that we would actually have this discussion in the shadow of January 6th. On a day when nobody was arrested. They didn't do anything to anybody that day, and the Supreme Court is in the process of maybe letting them off the hook. And so what we have to do is do the work of nuance so that we can separate the wheat from the chaff, so that we can acknowledge people's free speech related rights, so that we can listen to a perspective that's being had and said, even if one disagrees with it, as long as it can be communicated respectfully. Because if we can't do that, ultimately, we just don't have a country.
Mustafa.
You know, it's interesting. I was a part of student protests at a couple of different campuses over my academic career. And we often want young people to stand up. You know, we want young people to be a part of trying to make the world a better place. But in my conversations with a number of young people at different campuses, you know, they're following Fannie Lou Hamer when she said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're tired of war. They're tired of seeing people die. They're tired of people not using common sense. So they want, you know, the hostages to come home. We all do. But they also want that 30,000+ folks who have been killed to cease also. So we should listen to young people. They are a part of the compass of if our country is moving in the right place. Is our country actually embracing humanity? Is our country also being honest about injustices that are happening? Because often too many people are afraid to speak out against injustice. They only want to do it when it's comfortable, because there is a price to pay when you speak out about injustice. So if we've got young people who are willing to put their academic credentials on the line, if they are willing to also possibly be beaten or arrested, then we have to honor that. But we also have to be clear at least from the movement that I come out of, that violence is not the way. So we got to also make sure that we don't have others who are not students who sometimes will participate in our protests or our marches, who don't have our best, who just don't have the same type of focus that we have. They have their own agenda, if I can say it that way. So we got to make sure that students are being honored, they're being uplifted, and that their voices matter.
Randy?
You know, the way history has worked in the United States is that every time there has been a movement, it usually does start with young people, even if we look at the civil rights movement. So this is nothing new. And I believe that if our government were smart, they would recognize that they are not going to be able to beat them. They're not going to be able to propagandize the message and try to say that when someone says we don't believe in war or genocide, that's the same as saying that they're being anti-Semitic. So I believe that they need to pay attention and say, okay, we really need to pay attention to these students and make some changes, or at least give them a platform to listen. But what I have seen, some of the police handling students too roughly and them going through extreme measures to shut them down is not going to work in the long run. It never has historically.
Well, it is a continuation, again, of lots of drama, lots of conflict on the campus of Columbia and other universities around the country. So we certainly will see what happens, the impact on graduations, and if it's going to continue when the school year lets out for summer. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. Black and white voting patterns widening. We're not going to the polls, folks. I keep telling y'all, we're leaving our power at home. That's not a good thing. We'll talk with the Brennan Center next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was just in my backyard. I was manifesting about life. I said, I would love to come back because it was a great time, and these kids need that right now. They need that male role model in the schools, I think. Even on the TV. Yeah. Because people are scared to go into the high schools. You know, the high school, you know what I mean? I would love to bring it back, and I think we can bring it back. What do you think? I think we'll ask the people. We'll ask your people.
We'll do a poll. Yeah, I want to hang him Mr. Cooper.
Yeah, I say let's go. We all look good. You know, Holly looked good. You know, Raven looked the same. Marquise, Don Lewis. It'd be funny to have the bullshit you see out there on TV now. God damn. What the fuck? What happened to TV?
It's some.
I'm like, oh my God.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Black voter participation was significant with the election of President Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, yet we're now seeing a widening gap between black and white voters. The Brennan Center for Justice, they actually did a report called Growing Racial Disparities in Voter Turnout 2008-2022. A huge result of that is the Supreme Court weakening the Voting Rights Act. Kareem Creighton is the Senior Director of Voting Rights and Representation at the Brennan Center, joining us now from New York. Kareem, glad to have you here. So let's walk through this. And so, again, election of Obama 2008, a lot of attention, a lot of focus, a lot of energy. And then we saw 2010, Republicans win the midterm elections, and things begin to change.
Well, that's right, Roland. It's fair to say thank you, first off, for having me here to talk about the report. We're delighted to share information about it. What you said is absolutely right. 2008 was certainly a hallmark year for African-American political participation, in part because of the election of America's first African-American president. So turnout was, significantly high, hit some historic highs. What happened in 2010 is actually what happens a lot in elections because it was a midterm year. The president is not on the ballot. Most people tend not to show up as they would in a presidential year. That number goes down. But importantly, what this report focuses on is what happened in 2013 and beyond, where the Supreme Court of the United States issued a decision in this case called Shelby County versus Holder, which essentially got rid of one of the significant protections that made sure that voters could have access to the ballot on a fair and equal basis, particularly in the states that were part of the worst of American history in denying people a ballot with respect to race. What we show in this report is that among the reasons that turnout goes up and down, one of the significant drivers of this is the issuance of that decision that the Supreme Court made, suggesting that we no longer needed the protections of the Voting Rights Act. And while what we saw prior to 2013 is a closing of the gap between African-American voters and white voters, and frankly, non-white voters and white voters generally, after 2013, we saw that gap widen, and it actually became more pronounced, grew faster, and became bigger in the very places where we had pre-clearance protections, and after 2013 didn't any longer. So you're right. The trend is a very disturbing one. It's most disturbing when you look at African-American participation compared to white participation.
And so when you talk about that 2000 Shelby v. Holder decision, what really happened there? And so walk people through what Republicans started to do all across the country.
Right. Well, what we heard, the court decided to credit this argument. We thought it was actually a bad one at the time, as did a minority on the court, that we no longer needed these protections of the Voting Rights Act because, as they saw it, those numbers were starting to close between African-American and white voters. And the question the court asked was, well, if that's closing, why do we need these same protections that we needed in 1965? They wrongly, in my view, issued a decision, got rid of the provision that protected the voters in particularly the South from having new laws on the books that had the likelihood of discriminating. And without that federal protection, what states did literally hours after the Supreme Court issued that decision was to enact a new round of voting laws that we all knew that would have been illegal under the pre-clearance provision, but essentially that went after many of the channels that African Americans and other voters use to participate in elections. And what that cumulative effect actually meant was that hundreds of thousands of voters, particularly voters of color, in these jurisdictions had more barriers than fewer barriers to cast ballots. And what that, among other things, has contributed to is a growing gap. Fewer people show up to the polls, and those fewer people more often in these places relate to people of color, in particular Black people. And that gap represents, again, hundreds of thousands of voters that would be voters of color in our political system between 2013 and 2022, which we measured as part of our study.
So, in terms of, and one of the things that I have been doing is really just trying to get our folks to understand where we have to be, why we have to be focused. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is, we're seeing places like Louisiana where we're not turning out, and numbers are real low, and so therefore we're leaving our voting power at home.
That's fair. My people are originally from Louisiana, and we have, a tradition of actually voting in that state on Saturdays. And, you probably recall that this time around, we had the statewide election for most of the state offices on the same day of homecoming for Grambling and Southern, usually a place where you see a lot of African Americans show up. So we have a lot of these effects, both of laws that the legislators have put on the books in states that have made it more difficult to cast ballots. Frankly, redistricting, another place where preclearance used to do work. Legislators are essentially daring people to take them to court by drawing fewer districts in which African Americans have a fair opportunity to elect candidates. And what that has meant is that people, to get a fair map or get fair election systems. This goes to everything, remember, from where your polling place is, what kinds of offices are available to be voted on. People have to go to court and sue, and that takes more time. It takes a lot of money, and it usually means that while the fighting is happening, elections keep moving. And all of these elections and the policies that follow from it are done without really the sort of protection of preclearance. And what that has meant is, frankly, a system that is more difficult for African Americans to vote rather than less so.
Questions from the panel. Randy, you're first.
So we are aware that it seems as if there has been just a huge push to make voting as difficult as it can be for people of color, particularly Black people. What can we do? It's so frustrating because it should be the way we should have the right to vote. How do we fight back? How do we fight back?
Well, one of the things we continue to do, the Brennan Center, among the constellation of civil rights organizations, is we take these folks to court. And unfortunately, we are doing it in a judicial system that is less friendly. The last administration put a lot of people on the bench who were frankly skeptical, if not hostile, to the idea of fair enforcement of the Voting Rights Act. So we're having to fight new battles, but we're in there, and a lot of groups are putting their time and talent on the line to make sure that that happens. That's one part of it. The other part of it, though, is what we always say, and I know it's, for many people seemingly trite, but there really is no substitute for people showing up to vote. It means, though, we have to be more organized than we were before. It means that we have to be prepared for obstacles that would include things like being less able to organize people ahead of time to do things like cast absentee ballots. But what we can do, and I think I would like to make sure that we focus on this, is make sure that we, in every public space that we know of, whether it's campuses at HBCUs, churches, social clubs, we find everybody that we can and remind them of what the stakes are in this election. And frankly, every election. If you aren't as aware of what the results can be when people who don't represent you and who aren't interested in talking to you are in charge, we're starting to see how that looks in a lot of different elections, and it's not very good, particularly for the policies that follow from it. And so what I would just say more than anything is, make sure that we are talking to our younger voters in particular, because many of them, unfortunately, have seen a world that hasn't been as effective on, policy issues that, young people and all of us care about. But I think it's really talking to people, getting prepared, and organizing. And a lot of groups out there are, ready and willing to help people do that.
Thank you.
Joe.
And first of all, greatly appreciate the work that you're doing. In the case where we all were pleasantly surprised when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of voting rights in the Alabama, perhaps, and I wonder if you have any thoughts, as difficult a slog as we have with the courts, is that case potentially instructive about some narrow route? And are you finding that any particular grounds or any particular things are a little bit more likely, even if not likely in and of itself, to be successful, relatively speaking? And is that case instructive at all?
Well, thanks for the question. I actually grew up in Montgomery and worked pretty closely at different stages of this redistricting fight. It definitely is instructive and definitely a breath of fresh air to see the court at least acknowledge in the place where some of the heaviest polarization exists, racially polarized voting, which is usually one of the key factors to show the need for some sort of judicial remedy. This is under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which continues to be in place, which allows us, even with the same fights we have, to get in and sue, that some courts, Republican-appointed courts, I'll note, actually will get to the right answer. The important piece of this, though, is even while the Supreme Court made its decision, the state didn't just sort of pack up and say, all right, you got us. It said, well, you know, we still have questions about it, and we're going to fight on the merits of the case in 2024. So, you know, it is instructive at least to say the court has not closed the books on the Voting Rights Act. But I think the continued fight that we see in a lot of states, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, as we talked about, suggests that there is continuing a need to address this real effort to try to upend all the work that was done from 1965 onward to protect voting rights through federal legislation. And more than anything, I would also add, it highlights the need for us to adopt new legislation that does some of the work that we see the Supreme Court undercut. We need a new Voting Rights Act in place that gets after a more positive vision of voting that reflects all the people who live in these places that have grown tremendously in the last decade. And really, without a Congress and a president to put that in place, which, by the way, requires people to show up and vote, we really can't expect that to happen. So if you're asking the question about why it would be necessary, what do you get if you show up and vote? The answer is you get more protections to keep it possible that people in your state and local governments, the folks who fill potholes, the folks who build libraries and the like, who fund your schools, that those people are actually listening to your community.
Thank you.
Mustafa.
Well, brother, thank you for everything that you do and for the Brennan Center. I'm curious, and I know that you can't be Nostradamus, but what does the future look like if we cannot rectify the situation and begin to move it in a positive direction for Black folks?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll just, pick up where I left off about a lot of these states we've been talking about are some of the fastest growing states in the country. And they are powered by the growth of young people of color, including Black people. And the hard question to be thinking about is if we can't get a system through a robust enforcement of the Voting Rights Act, where people who have an interest in showing up and participating in our election system actually find a system that welcomes them and not pushes them away or penalizes them for it, we're going to get to the point where our democratic system is really only responding to a minority of people in our country. And we can call that system a lot of things. I think it becomes less likely that most people are going to accept it as a valid and democratic process. And I think it questions whether the experiment that we call America is going to be able to continue. So, everybody's used the term, I use it a lot myself, existential. We are in an existential crisis. Either we're going to get a system that lives up to the expectation that we all have, that the majority of the people in this country should drive elections and answers and policies that reflect their interests. But if we're not going to do that, I think a majority of the people will get sick of it or either become apathetic or worse. And so, again, if you're thinking about trying to explain or figuring out ways to explain to people, young people in particular, why it's important, I think the answer is because your future really depends upon it. And then that's not just hyperbole. It means if we're going to be in a system that serves everybody, it's the only way that we get the policies that we deserve.
Thank you.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why, we make a concerted effort to constantly explain this to people. And it's hard for people like, oh, man, you keep talking about this voting thing. And I'm like, hey, it's real. And you can't act like it has no impact.
Yeah, so you're out there talking. I mean, if you're talking about your student loans, if you're talking about the price of what you have to pay to go to the grocery store and make dinner, if you're talking about the environment or foreign policy, all of these things depend upon getting people in office who are going to be responsive. And you just can't get that by staying at home. Somebody's showing up. The question is, are you going to be a part of somebody?
Oh, yeah. Somebody's definitely showing up. And that's why I keep trying to tell people, they're going to show up, and we got to make a decision whether we're going to show up as well. Kareem, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back more on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Lots more to talk about. Don't forget, y'all, to support us in what we do. First and foremost, join our Brennan Funk fan club. You can contribute, send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And, of course, you can also support us by downloading the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And, of course, you can get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. And, folks, we have limited copies left of my book, The First. Of course, which I focus on the 2008 election. I am autographing every single copy, and so you can actually get it. We had up something on the website saying it was sold out. It is not sold out. So we want you to go to the site. Again, I'm personally autographing every single copy, and so you want to absolutely get that. And so, of course, you see. I put it on sale for $10 to let you know in terms of how we're doing it, and then of course what we're doing. And just in case if you think I'm playing around, understand, folks, you can let's see here. Give me 1 second. I wanted to show you something, but for some reason it's not coming up. We're gonna do it in a second. But look, we got copies. I've got a bunch of them sitting right here signed. Gonna be mailing those off, and so we want you again to please support us in these efforts, and so you can do that, and we will greatly appreciate that. And so again, you know how to check us out. Get the first. RolandSMartin.com/the first. And so get it now. I'll be right back in a moment. A lot of y'all have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. Now, look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, the Shibori, is because it's sort of like a flower, and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors.
colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori Pocket Square or the custom-made Pocket Square. Again, RolandSMartin.com/Pocket Squares. Go there now.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks. Jamison House has been missing from Memphis since April 1st. The 17-year-old is 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighs 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Jamison House should call the Memphis Police Department at 901-545-2677, 901-545-2677. A New York judge has slapped Donald Trump with a $9,000 fine and a warning that if he keeps violating the gag order, he is going to go to jail. Judge Juan Merchan found Trump in criminal contempt for 9 gag order violations. He issued the gag order prohibiting Trump from publicly commenting on the participation of potential witnesses, court staff, prosecutors, and family members of the court. In the first week of the trial, prosecutors informed the judge that Trump had violated the order a total of 10 times with posts on Truth Social and Trump's campaign website. Mustafa, the judge gave them until this afternoon to delete those social media posts. Guess what? The arrogant one himself, he did.
Well, it's good that he's finally beginning to actually follow the letter of the law, because we know that that's not something that he normally does. He feels that he can thumb his nose at the law. So, as he continues to get fined, and I believe in New York that there's a limit to what those fines look like, but there's not a limit to him being able to go to jail, that may actually get his attention and have him, just make sure that he has the right type of decorum that someone should have in this type of a situation. Although for most folks, $9,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, especially for somebody like him who, is wealthy. And folks can debate how much wealth he actually has. But, $130,000 is what he paid, allegedly, to Stormy Daniels. So a lot of people are putting that into context and are looking for greater amounts tied to the violation. But folks should actually follow the law.
Sheer arrogance, that's what we're dealing with right here, Joe, and that's exactly who Donald Trump is. And he doesn't care about rules, doesn't care about the law, and the only way to get him to act right is to enforce the law. If this was any one of us, ain't no way in hell we could be still, running our mouths, putting all kinds of stuff on social media. We'll be sitting out behind in jail.
Yeah, I mean, he does kind of what he wants to. And so, frankly, that's what I'm looking for. $9,000 is not particularly impressive to me. That's a little something. But, why didn't you let him sit for a couple days? Why didn't you do that? If he really believed that was going to happen, sure, he'd make it into a crusade. But he doesn't want to be in jail. He doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be a hero like that. He doesn't want to be a martyr like that. So hopefully we'll see if it ends up being necessary that the judge takes it to the hilt that way. The judge wants to be balanced. They want to be measured so that when you get to that point, it's not seen as an overreaction. It's not seen, you have to temper justice with mercy, as it were. But at some point, if he continues to do that with all of this thing going on and these things that are said put people in jeopardy, mess with people's safety, they're disruptive, they're disrespectful to the rule of law, to the court process in general. And so let's see if it ends up going any further.
Randy?
What's unfortunate is that he probably made more money, way more than the $9,000, just by putting up what he puts up, because people seem to fall more in love with him the more he goes against the system. So, yeah, I would love to see that he was punished in a way that would really hurt him and just spend a little bit of time in jail, because I don't think he wants that either.
All right, folks, let's go to our next story, where the Wisconsin Supreme Court says there was nothing wrong about the firing of a former Milwaukee police officer for posting racist memes after arresting an NBA player. The court's 54-page opinion stated that former officer Eric Andrade received due process under state law in the U.S. Constitution when he was fired in 2018. Andrade was one of the Milwaukee police officers involved in the arrest and tasing of former Milwaukee Bucks player Sterling Brown in January 2018 in a Walgreens parking lot. Brown sued Milwaukee police and accused them of racially profiling him, using excessive force and making it an unlawful arrest. He settled with the city for $750,000. You know, it's very interesting, Joe, how these cops think that they can just get away with anything. And I'm glad to see the Wisconsin Supreme Court saying, no, you should have had your ass fired.
Yeah, and it's been upheld at every level. This has not been a back and forth thing, and it was upheld 5-2 here. It's interesting, and frankly, the police department was strategic. They said, listen, people are going to take these Facebook posts, and they're going to use these to undermine your testimony when we have to defend against you, or as it pertains to an investigation that you were involved with. How can we say that you were balanced if you're posting racist memes? And so, some of us, and we work on our certain jobs, lawyers are officers of the court. Police officers are supposed to be held to a high standard. They literally have people's lives in their hands, potentially. And so, therefore, it very well might be, yes, it might be, that something you post on Facebook has the potential to undermine your job prospects. That's basically what happened here. I think they were right, and it's good that they were confirmed in that regard, and hopefully this is a message to folks that you can't just do and say anything. There's no such thing as being, quote, off-duty as it pertains to your conduct and how you carry yourself and how it has the potential to bear on your credibility, particularly in that profession.
Yeah, it is. It is quite interesting when you look at these cops, Randy, who think they can just do whatever they want, say what they want, and you know what? We're going to be protected, and we'll get our jobs back, and then they force them to give us back pay.
Right. And it's understandable that they are arrogant like that, because oftentimes they have been able to get away with things that nobody else can. So I'm happy when that law actually works in the way that it should work. It's always interesting to me that people really don't understand, this freedom of speech, and they think that it allows them to say whatever they want, whenever they want, to whomever they want, and which is absolutely incorrect. So many people need to spend some time understanding the law, particularly those who try to enforce it.
And it was a 5-2 opinion. And one of the things, Mustafa, when you look at, he shared on Facebook a number of racist memes that was out there. And so they made it clear that, nah, dude, you don't have any First Amendment rights. You're a cop. You got to sit here and abide by the law, and you can't sit here. And then, of course, what he had posted, and again, they try to claim it was, they try to claim, I have these rights. And here's what's crazy. I'm going to show you this here. Let's see, pull it up. Not sure why I cannot pull it up. What's going on? I got to fix what's going on. But it says, hours after the arrest, this is what Andrade wrote. Nice meeting Sterling Brown of the Milwaukee Bucks at work this morning. LOL, hashtag fear the deer. That literally was a tweet. 3 months later, He shared a meme of NBA star Kevin Durant mocking his hair. And he also... and then when he says, this is from the Milwaukee paper, Andrade wrote a post about J.R. Smith of the Cleveland Cavaliers after the team lost Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Quote, I hope J.R. Smith double parks in Walgreens handicapped parking spot when he's in Milwaukee, alluding to Sterling Brown.
Yeah, you know, maybe there needs to be an amendment to the Constitution that says don't say or do stupid stuff, because that's what these folks continue to do. Or don't do racist stuff. You know, it's interesting. Maya Angelou once said to us, you know, very clearly that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. These individuals cannot serve and protect because they have these biases that are so deeply, you know, inside of them that there's no way that you could ever actually do serving and protecting in a way that all people are able to receive that. So the only thing that now most folks have is the legal route. And of course, in hitting folks in the pocket, as we often talk about, I think Randy has also shared on previous shows that we also have to make sure that these officers, and again, it's not all officers, but when we have these types of individuals, that they have to have some personal accountability financially if we want to see things actually change. Because many times the cities are the ones who are picking up the cost. And these folks never end up feeling that financial pain that often will get people to do right. So we'll see if we evolve into that positioning where, you know, when we have these racist police officers who make them actually have to carry some of the burden financially.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. We discuss a strange story out of this. You know, we've been covering this story, and it's unbelievable, where a black kid shot in the head in the attic of a white supremacist. Now the FBI has issued their ruling. I'm going to tell you all about it and talk to his mother when we come back. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support us in what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. You can see our check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Also, folks, get your autographed copy of the first. I only have 500. They are going. And once they're all gone, that's it. I'm not printing anymore. I'm going to personally autograph every single one to you. I'm selling them, put on the fire sale for $10, $5.99 shipping and handling. And so you can order right now, RolandSMartin.com/the first. You can get the book now. Again, all proceeds go right back into the show. So when you buy the book, you actually support the show. Back in a moment. First, President Barack Obama's road to the White House. We got about 500 copies of the book available. And so this actually is all of the coverage of the 2008 election. But the other thing is this here. I talked to folks like Malik Yoba, Hill Harper, Erica Alexander, Kevin Lau, Spike Lee, Tatiana Ali. But there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here as well, where I talked about some of the stuff that went down at CNN. Also, when you go through here, a lot of the photos that you see in here, photos that I actually shot, photos that were my time at CNN. And so what I decided to do, because one, I published the book and I own it myself, is that so I said, you know what, I'm going to slash the price to $10. And so we're going to have shipping and handling $5.99. I'm going to personally autograph every copy. I'm not reprinting the book. So once we are sold out of these 500, that's it. They're gone. So you can go to RolandSMartin.com/the first to get a copy of this book. Everybody who orders this book through the website, not on Amazon, only through RolandSMartin.com. I will personally autograph and mail you a copy of this book. It's all of the covers, the actual interviews that I did with him. And just to show you, of course, when it came out, there's actually even in here the interviews that I did with him and Michelle Obama, which won TV One cable networks its first 2 NAACP Image Awards. And so all of that for $10. Shipping and handling is $5.99. So go to RolandSMartin.com the first and order your copy today.
This is Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Folks, we got an update on this very strange case out of Illinois. On April 25th, 2021, Derontae Martin attended a prom party at the home of James Wade, who was a noted white supremacist in this Illinois town. The problem is Derontae was later found dead in Wade's attic. Now, the local coroner quickly ruled Derontae's death a suicide. It took months to get a second autopsy, and an impaneled jury ruled Derontae's death resulted from violence, not suicide. Well, the FBI, they've investigated the case, and they found that the 19-year-old black teen died from a self-inflicted gunshot. Erica Lotz is Derontae's mother. She joins us right now. This has to be troubling for you, Erica, for the FBI come to this conclusion. Y'all have been hoping that wanting them to get involved in here, and still no justice. And so the FBI rules this, but an impaneled jury said it was violence.
Okay, first off, this happened in Fredericktown, Missouri. Not in Illinois. It's
I'm sorry about that.
Like maybe 2 hours south of St. Louis. And the FBI actually never did an investigation. On December 20th of 2023, myself and my mom, along with the legal advisor, we went and sat down with the FBI, and we were asking for them to help investigate it as a hate crime. And they said that it was not a hate crime, so they could not investigate Derontae's case, and therefore they would not be overruling the verdict of Madison County Sheriff's Department and Missouri Highway Patrol Troop E of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, regardless to the jury inquest or the second autopsy.
So how did they then come to this conclusion?
Well, as of April the 24th, it was told to me by Associate Press, which is the news paper. The newspaper contacted the FBI, and the FBI notified them that they let us know on December the 20th that they closed Derontae's case due to an investigation, in which that's not what they told us. They told us that Derontae's case did not stand grounds for a hate crime.
Okay. So I guess what I'm still confused is, how did they arrive at this conclusion, and what now? Because again, you have... Go ahead.
They basically have cleared James Wade, but they're not investigating William Cody Gideon or Zachary Graham. And William Cody Gideon is the one who admitted even to the police that he gave Derontae a gun under the influence because he was in fear of his life. And Zachary Graham is the one who said that he shot himself laying down, when the detectives who did the investigation said that there was no way that he could have been laying down when he shot himself, that he had to have been sitting up. Even after one of the witnesses said that he was laying down and shot himself. So nobody in the house has been investigated but James Wade, which is a 911 caller.
So what's next for you in this case?
To keep pushing the issue for somebody to investigate, because my son was murdered. Even in the second autopsy report, or it was not a direct contact wound. There's no proof of evidence with the wound that this was a self-inflicted, besides of different statements from different people that conflict each other.
Questions around panel. Joe Richardson, you first.
First of all, my condolences. No parent should have to bury a child, and that's something that you've done. Are you having any luck getting with legal counsel or any of those types of things out in that area or somewhere that could potentially be helpful and put resources behind investigation and that kind of thing?
No, not really. Everybody that we contact, it's like hard to get people to help us.
I'm sorry.
Because they know that we have to go against the police, the coroner, the medical examiner, because even when they picked up Derontae, I never got a death notice. I never identified his body, and he was already embalmed by the time that I even knew that my son was dead on the 25th at 12:30 p.m.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And
wow.
So we have to go against so many people, and I haven't found anybody that's really willing to go up against them. No matter which avenue I try to take, I can't find anybody to help me. Hold on. Yes, so all I can do is just keep pushing the issue, and I know I sound like a mother who just to some people who refuse to just admit that my son committed suicide. But first of all, I know my son wasn't suicidal. I know he did commit a suicide, and I knew he wasn't a drug addict. And for them to be telling me that my son overdosed and then shot himself in the head, either he was dead and shot himself in the head, or he was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound and then he overdosed. You are just telling me basically that I just have to admit and accept the fact that I got a dead son, and they don't really care who did it or how or why. When there are people who are telling what happened, and they basically just said that they don't have enough proof to that.
Randy.
No words. My very sincere condolences. And I would like to know, because how can the community, if you could speak out to your community that is there, how could they best support you as you go through each day and try to obtain justice? How could they support you?
Help stand up and speak out. Just help them. I mean, I'm just asking everybody. I don't care if you have to just tell your neighbor, help somebody. It could be your kid, you know what I mean?
Yes. So we need anybody to come forward.
And honestly, it's with Derontae is a proven fact that your kids don't have to hang out in the street. They don't have to be involved in drugs. They don't have to be gang banging, because Derontae didn't do none of that. And look at us sitting here.
And have you been offered some counseling?
Yeah. Ms. Martin, I'm trying to put it together because I just lost a teenage cousin to gun violence. And so I kind of feel your pain. I think Randy was about to ask the question, and I know it's something that I'm always trying to have in place, is that you have someone to be able to talk to, you have someone who can help with therapy. Do you have anyone to be able to help you in that space? Because this is a difficult journey, and being able to, one, address the killing of your son, but also in being able to find the space for you to be able to heal, which I know will take a while. So the question is, do you have that support?
I think we lost her signal. Do we have it back? Yeah, it looks like we lost her signal there. So we will try to get her back, but we'll certainly will communicate with her and their family to find out what's next. This is a story, again, we've covered. It makes no sense whatsoever when you when you unveil this, and the details are just stunning in terms of how he was found in an attic at a party. I mean, it's just a lot of this makes no sense whatsoever. And so we appreciate her for coming on the show. Like I say, we reported on this story on several occasions, and just all the best to Erica Lotz and their family, and we're going to continue to try to, again, get some sort of justice for this family, because it just doesn't make sense. Things simply just do not come together and make any sense whatsoever. And so we'll try to get an answer to that question, Mustafa. Let me thank our panel. Let me thank Joe, Randy, and Mustafa for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, you can support everything that we do here. Our goal is to really focus on hold up, kill the music yet. Our really focus is to really deliver the news in a way that matters to you. In fact, I was gonna do it today, but we were delayed in getting Erica Lotz on the show. So tomorrow I'm gonna unpack for you all the different changes happening at the Griot, where they're getting rid of nearly all of their shows, including their news shows, their daily news shows with Mark Lamont Hill and Ebony Williams. And so we're the only ones who still do what we do. And so, again, your support is absolutely critical. Folks, our news matters. Our news matters. We can't see them be waiting on somebody else. I mean, this is a perfect example. I don't know if Erica Lotz has been on other news networks. I can guarantee you they're not coming back to the story. We've done this story 2 or 3 different times, constantly trying to get updates, which is why black-owned media matters. There's a lot of people out there love to run their mouths and criticize, black media this, black media that. But we're doing the work. We're putting in the work. We don't sit here and waste our time with the people out there who all they do is just simply run their mouths and they complain and they moan. That's not what we do. We are about speaking to the issues that matter. And so your support is absolutely critical. So you can support us in multiple ways. One, join our Bring the Funk fan club. When we launched this show, I said, listen, it's going to cost us money for hats and bumper stickers and swag and all sort of stuff. No, we want that money to go all right into the show. And so y'all have been hugely supportive, and so we certainly appreciate that. And so give me 1 second. Sorry, folks. I'm looking at some news here. It looks like NYPD may be heading onto the campus at Columbia. Give me 1 second. Let's see, NYPD, they've got drones flying over campus, and so they may be making a move on the campus shortly. And so that's the messages that I am seeing right now that are being texted to me. And so we'll keep our eye on that story as well. As I was saying, folks, it's just us. Other folks out here, you do not see a commitment to a daily news show from any of these other black-owned media folks. None of them. Black-owned or black-targeted. Like I said, you don't see a daily news show on Revolt, on TV One, on BET, on Aspire, on Afro. You don't see it Black Enterprise. You don't see it with Essence. You don't see it with Blavity. As I said, I'm going to unpack it tomorrow. Byron Allen is ending the shows that they launched last year. And so that means that our stuff has to wait. And we can get it. And look, and let's be real clear. You're not getting real news from Shade Room, Baller Alert, Hollywood Unlocked. You're getting gossip and rest of that stuff. We don't deal with all that. And so for us, it means having a news outlet where, first of all, people like Erica Lotz can come to and get their story out. The other family members, the people who have been shot and killed by cops, the civil rights attorneys will tell you, thank goodness we cover this stuff. But also the business stories that we cover, the political stories that we cover. I mean, you name it. Listen, all 4 polls done by black organizations have been done in the past 2 months. Virtually no mention on mainstream media. That's why Roland Martin Unfiltered, and the Black Star Network matters. So support us in what we do. Join the Brennan Funk fan club. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also support us by getting a number of our products. You can get the first President, first of all, the first President Barack Obama's Road to the White House is originally reported by Roland S. Martin. I am personally autographing all copies. Again, once they are all gone, folks, I am printing no more. So you can get it for $10 plus $5.99 shipping and handling. I will personally autograph every single one. You can go to RolandSMartin.com/the first. You can also get our pocket squares, Shibori pocket squares, the custom-made pocket squares. You can get that by going to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So check that out as well. And, of course, you can get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Guys, do you have the graphic for the pocket squares? Come on, put it up. So, again, you can get those on RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. And so definitely check that out. And, as I said, you can get White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll talk about the layoffs at the Griot. We'll also show you some of the fun stuff that happened at the George Lopez Celebrity Golf Classic yesterday in Los Angeles. Y'all have a great evening. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?